Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farm, the podcast. I'm your host, Jace Young, and today's topic of discussion is this: God created you to create. And so, guys, I wanted to share this kind of powerful revelation I had going through some of my daily work here this morning. I've been pretty consistent here lately around making sure I'm just intentional about having some form of connection with God on a daily basis to download whatever message He is trying to give me on that day. And today's message or revelation or lesson, whatever you want to call it, came back as God created me to create. Now, when we're thinking about this, guys, I want you to think about all the things that really could happen in your life if you were to do these actions that you feel that God is telling you to do. Now, with me, the way I look at these types of situations and just kind of how we are as people, I feel like there's two voices in our head. One of them is the voice of what we can call the ego or the devil. The other one can be the voice of God, right? And, another lesson I had a couple weeks ago that was really powerful for me was that the devil screams, but God whispers, right? God is quiet. God is making you be intentional about listening for Him and hearing Him and then ultimately acting on that. Now, for a lot of years, guys, especially back before I left the banking industry from basically 2014 through 2016, I had the initial idea around leaving the banking industry and stepping into this new world and new life and trying to create a new for myself and my family and everything. And I heard the voice of God at that time there. And the thing is, though, is that I fought behind, I just really fought taking action and really trusting that voice and everything. And it was a 2-year period there where I could hear it, but man, I just wasn't taking action there. And maybe you're in a similar situation right now where, man, you're just kind of stuck in the same spot. Like, there's certain things that you need to do inside of your life. That God is telling you certain things. The reality is, though, it's just going to have, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You're fearful of what the future may hold. You're fearful of what it could do or who it could impact or who it could hurt. All these stories start to play in your head. And to me, that's the ego creating these stories in your head in order to keep us where we're at, right? Because the ego doesn't want us growing. It doesn't want us expanding. It doesn't want us doing anything in our life besides just kind of settling, right? But deep down, though, again, if you're like me, you have this voice in the back of your head and you're like, man, I feel like I'm being told something right now. I feel like I should be taking action on this. But at the end of the day, there's some risk involved in it. There's some things that I just don't know and things like that. And so anyways, I share all that with you because you may be in that similar spot right now. Now, I want to pose another question to you as well, though, is what are the possible outcomes or what things do you think God has planned for you if you would just listen to Him? And what I mean by that is, what are all the things that you think could really fall into place if you would just trust your gut, trust this voice of God inside you, that you hear that whisper, and just go ahead and take action and just trust whatever is unfolding, right? And the thing is like when we first take actions like this, a lot of times what first unfolds is not pleasant by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of those things are rough and everything. But the reality is, though, in order for us to get to what God really wants to give us and what He has planned for our life and our journey here on this earth, sometimes, you got to go through some rough waters there. And that typically happens in the very beginning. And then those rough waters could last months, they could last years or whatever it is. But eventually you're going to get to a point where you look back and you're like, yeah, I can totally see why I went through that and everything that happened there. Now, when I think about this, guys, from a higher level there, or higher level here inside today's discussion, God created you to create. So if I don't have the courage to leave the banking industry, does anything that I have right now exist? And the simple answer is no. But the other thing, though, too, is inside of Legacy Farmer, we've impacted hundreds of family farm operations across the country. So the thing is God able to take action in like our members' lives if I don't take action initially, right? And I'm not talking like I'm just some, chosen one or anything. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you specifically right here. And what are all the things that God has planned for other people's lives around you that you could impact if you just follow the voice of God inside your mind and inside your heart right now, right? There's certain things that He cannot take action on until you follow that voice and you trust Him and you continue moving forward. Like it opens up things, right? That all of a sudden this becomes much bigger than just you or me here. The thing is I start looking at all the people I've connected with in my life and the people that, God brought into my life for a certain period of time. Some of them are still there and everything. And I'm like, man, God was using those people as the messenger for me as well. And I couldn't make happen what I've made happen in my life until they took action in theirs, right? There's just a sequence of events, and like God has everything strategically planned out in perfect timing to where He may just be waiting on you to take one simple action so that He can open up all these doorways for you, which will then cause this compounding effect where it opens up all these other doors for people that are in your life right now that are literally waiting on you to take one action. And it goes back to the lesson here. God created you to create. So if you are not willing to create, AKA take action, do things, make things happen, create inside of your life here, are you holding back God's plan for not only yourself, but for other people around you as well? And a lot of times it's for the people that you actually love pretty dearly, whether it's your family or your wife and kids and things like that. There's all these things that he has planned. And the thing is, though, is like maybe he's just waiting on you and me. You know what I mean? And it's like, again, when you talk about it from this level here, it's like, man, is my life bigger than what I'm realizing? Right. And I think that's true for all of us here, because we have no idea what we're capable of. We have no idea what God has planned for us until we actually trust and follow his voice and go through the journey. Right. And again, I want to remind you, you're going to hit some rough waters, and that's part of the process. That's part of the journey. It's not, I don't feel like it's because God wants to put me through any pain or anything like that. A lot of that, those rough waters are just getting us prepared for what he has planned for us going forward there. And it is a privilege to go through those rough times in life. It's a privilege to have the opportunity to learn and grow and build a deeper connection with God, in my opinion there. And I feel like that's what I'm just at that stage of my journey right now, to where you start getting these things, right? You start having things happen in your life, and then you start to question, certain purposes and things in your life again, which is why I've had to really be intentional about going back through my daily work with God. Because once you get all these things, right, in the beginning, we think we want all these material things and we need to take action because of these material things. And then you realize once you get them, it's like, man, that's really not the answer. It doesn't give me fulfillment or anything like that. So then you go back to the drawing board, and God's like, yeah, dude, like you thought you wanted this, but I'm going to show you what you really want. And here's what you need to do in order to make that happen. So just like the lesson of today's podcast and really training here is God created you to create. The reason I'm speaking this message to you is because if I don't create this, if I don't create this environment or this message or this podcast or anything like that, then is my unwillingness to do that going to hold you back as a listener on the other side of this video from maybe taking the steps that you need to in your life, right? Maybe you are just waiting for somebody to give you permission to listen to the voice in the back of your head that you know is God, because you know that what he's telling you to do is going to be good for you long-term, or is the right move long-term. Even though there may be some rough waters, you know it's the right move for you long-term. Trust me, I totally get it. I battled with that for 2 years sitting in the bank, and you're scared to death and you have no idea what's going to happen. But consider what could be possible in your life if you would just trust that voice, step forward into it, and just go, right? And just go and just accept and take in everything that happens along that journey, and just have the awareness to understand that any challenging time you go through, any set of rough waters or anything like that, it's all for a purpose. It's not because you're meant to fail or anything like that. God would not take you to that place if he meant for you to fail. God would not bring me this far in my life if he meant for me to fail long term, because where I'm at right now, we're taking bigger and bigger and bigger risks in order to try to impact the ag industry and the people that we love inside this industry in the biggest way that we possibly can. In order to do that, you have to take risk. And so there's just a lot of trust that we're having to lean on right now, and that I'm having to lean on in this pathway that we're going towards. And yeah, it's just, it reminds you of how many things God has planned inside your journey here. And that at the end of the day, we can make up all these stories, all these fears and things like that. But knowing that God just has this great plan for you in your life. And at the end of the day, going back to this lesson, if you are not willing to create, then he can't make things happen. The more you create, the more doors open for you, but also the more doors open for those around you, because your message, your actions are going to positively impact the lives of those around you. And to me, guys, there's no greater gift. There's no greater level of joy or fulfillment in this life. And maybe that's the lesson that God wants us all to really see and to understand. So at the end of the day, my friends, make sure you're creating, because that is what God created you to do, just like that is what he created me to do as well. So my friends, hope this message was powerful for you. I hope you took things away from it. Most importantly, I hope you take action because of it. And we'll catch you on the next episode.